Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show. I'm Chris Miller. That's Jim Powers, and all of our episodes are brought to you by Wiley Agencies. If you're looking for multiple policies with one agent for your car, your home, your motorcycle, your boat, whatever you decide you want to insure, call Sean Wiley today. His Festus office at 636-764-6294. His Hillsborough office, 636-333-9903. You can talk all kinds of sports, World Series. He'll be all about it. But we're going to be talking about sports right now, locally. Jim, here we are. It is state tournament time.
Yeah, and this is the best part of the year. Everybody's 0-0 on the football side, and there's some intriguing matchups. There's the way some of the seeds shook out because of head-to-heads and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, this is what everybody plays for. And once again, you get an opportunity now to play for the state championship, get the Faroe Field the first week of December, and roll the dice and see what happens. But some great games last week that led to a lot of clarity on district, seeding, and a couple surprises that came out, and especially, in Class 6. But, once again, it was a great, regular season. Now the fun starts, and that's where guys like us get a chance to sit back, have our popcorn, a soda, and kind of watch what happens. And it's going to be an interesting trek here to see who's going to make it out for Field in December.
Sure is, man. I mean, and there were some some surprises. The formulas aren't always, I mean, I don't want to say they aren't always right, but it is the best system that we have in place. It is the only system we have in place for football. And I think I do think we have a good district tournament set up, especially in Class 6. My gosh, it's such a good class.
Yeah, and yes, everybody says, there's got to be a better way. And once again, I've made no bones about it for the longest time. What we have now is way better than when I moved here, coming up on 20 years ago, when it was only 3 teams in a district. And we actually talked about this on the coaches box last week. That was horrible because you could be, whatever, win 2 games in a district, and now you're 2-8 going into a state playoff. And that was ridiculous. I still like the Illinois system, where you've got to earn your way in. Not everybody makes it. But once again, now you have opportunity. Now, if you're sitting in that 4 or 5 seed, you got a chance to make some noise. And we're going to see that in Class 6 with a couple of these 4 or 5 matchups that are going to possibly take place. So it is what it is. It's way better than what it was. Is there room for improvement? I'm sure there is, and I'm sure the coaches are going to continue to have those conversations. But I like where we're at. I love the matchups. I love how some of the possible scenarios are going to, plan out. And it is what it is. And, we got to go with the hand that you're dealt and roll with it.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. I mean, if you don't like the change, get on the advisory board. If you're a coach, you're an AD, and you just try to figure out, what you can do there. But for the rest, I mean, you just have to play with the hand you're dealt. I think that's 100% right. Unfortunately, I agree with you and think that the Illinois side of things, as far as who plays, is better. And that does pain me to say, being a big-time Missouri fan of this state, even though it's terrible during the summer and cold during the winter. But
I mean, but like I said, being from Ohio, seeing the Ohio rank, and it's all computer based. You literally need to have on your coaching staff somebody that's got a doctorate in mathematics to figure out the Ohio system. And I'm not kidding when I say that. When I coached back in Ohio, one of my jobs was to try and figure out every week where we were in the computer standings, and I couldn't even do it. And I'm okay at math. But once again, it is what it is. And that's what everybody has to understand. This isn't Misha dictating this. This is coming straight from the coaches that go to their advisory board. The advisory board then makes the recommendations. And that's where stuff comes from. So, a lot of people are kicking and screaming at Misha. Well, it's not Misha. They're listening to what their members are telling them.
right.
And that's what everybody has to understand, how it all works. And it's a continual argument. I have to sit there and continue to tell people it's not Misha. It's what the members are telling Misha that they want.
Right.
And people have to understand that.
Yeah, and well, when you're an uninformed person, you can go ahead and just be mad at the world and make up whatever you want. So that's just how it's going to be until everybody gets on the same page and understands, and then you're still going to have people complain. So
Sure.
enough with that. We're gonna talk about the games that we highlighted last week on this show and do a quick recap. I'll tell you what, it was a good game if you like low scoring slugfest between Herculaneum and Crystal City, with Herculaneum scoring in the final seconds of the game to secure a 6-0 win over the longtime rival. St. Vincent defeated Jefferson 28-21 to wrap up the I-55 conference title for the second straight year. Lafayette continues to roll as they won 34-24 over Lindbergh. Jackson, speaking of rolling, they blew out Festus 42-14, and DeSmet Edwardsville beat previously undefeated DeSmet 29-12. So Jim, let's talk a little bit about last week's matchups.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that Herky Crystal game at the end was just terrific. Two, teams that just got after it defensively. Herky able to get a terrific pitch and catch with 6 seconds remaining in the game to get the score to win it. Crystal is going to be in a real interesting district in Class 1, so it'll be interesting to see how they can bounce back. St. Vincent, okay, there's that clip of me with the water jug getting it dumped on me. Okay, I'm a believer now of St. Vincent. Okay, they did a terrific job against R7, and they stood up and did what they needed to do, and it was terrific to see. And St. Vincent moves into the number 1 seed in their district, and terrific for them. And I think they can make a pretty decent run. Lafayette did what they needed to do, except one game, and that was week 1 against Marquette. So Lafayette will be the 2 seed in that district, but a good victory for them over Lindbergh. Jackson is just rolling right now. They'll be the 2 seed in their district that we're going to get into here in a little bit. Festus, the number 2 seed in their district. Everybody already figuring out that it's going to be them in Hillsboro. So Festus has a couple weeks to get some stuff figured out. And then Edwardsville goes into DeSmet. And I've talked about Jake Curry all year long, the quarterback for Edwardsville. He's one of the top guys at QB1 in not only Missouri, but over on the Eels side. And he showed it last week against a really good defensive team for DeSmet. And I've said this, for DeSmet, do you like an undefeated season? Sure. You're still the 1 seed. You're still probably one of the top 3-4 teams in the state of Missouri in Class 6. And you lost to one of the top teams over in Illinois. Edwardsville goes from a mid-teen seed. They jump all the way up to a number 4 seed in the 8A. And that says a lot. So, and it also shows a lot, on the poll, DeSmet not moving very much, in the Class 6 poll. DeSmet is going to be fine. Once again, it's good to get a loss. End of the year, kind of get you to refocus. They get a bye this week. And John Merritt, I'm sure they're working on their own stuff. They're taking care of themselves this week. Then they'll figure out who they're going to play after Friday night. Then they'll start to get ready. DeSmet is going to be just fine, but that was a really impressive performance by Edwardsville.
Yeah, it was. I mean, DeSmet's no pushover. We said that they're one of the best teams around, and Edwardsville, kind of coming off that loss to East St. Louis, they showed during that game that they can play. And this was kind of that reaffirming thing. So they're in a good spot going into their state playoffs as well. Going back to the St. Vincent Jefferson game, we did get called out on Twitter
I got called out. I got
by
called
Coach
out,
Schumer.
And I'll take the hit. I'll take the hit, and
if
they made me a believer.
if you do want to find it on our Twitter page at the Coach's Box, DACOACHSBOX, Coach Schumer, who has apparently watched our show,
friend of the show.
Friend of Coach Valroy, I'm sure, put a picture of his secondary underneath the scoreboard at the end of the game and said, in case you needed an update, secondary was ready. And that was one of the things we touched on. If their secondary was ready for the challenge against Williams in the R7 attack, they obviously were. St. Vincent plays a tough schedule, and those losses early, they don't really amount to much now when you're rolling like they are, and they are the 1 seed. And when you're talking about Class 1 football, by God, I'd want to be the 1 seed when you got to drive all over the state of Missouri to go play the district game. So big win for them. Obviously, it sets them up very nicely, like you said, for a possible deep state run.
And once again, I'm a believer now. And I saw the post, and I was one of the first one to respond and said, it was a great win, and it really was.
Yeah.
Our seven was playing at a high level all year long, and they ran into a secondary. They got after it, and St. Vincent secondary, and it was no disrespect to them last week when I made the comment the game was going to come down to whether the secondary was ready to to go against a really, really good quarterback in Williams for our seven. Well, guess what? I think the bulletin board material was there and they took it upon themselves. And that's great. You know what? That's awesome that those kids, stepped up and did a great job against a really talented quarterback. And it shows exactly where St. Vincent is right now. And you mentioned it. They lost a couple early, but a terrific, end run for them. They're the 1 seed. And I'm telling you, in that district, they can make a really, really deep run. So, yes, I'm a believer. I will not say anything about St. Vincent other than they are a team to be reckoned with on the Class 1 side of things here when it comes into the playoffs.
Absolutely. And so we're going to talk about some rankings right now, because I know you media guys love the rankings and we love to critique them. But when we talk about Class 6, see if it'll pull up. There we go. We got the Week 9 Class 6 rankings. Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, once again, at Lee Summit North gets a great win. Liberty North holds on against Lee Summit West to get a W. DeSmet and Nixa, and that's the way it should be. And Rockhurst finishes off their year with a good win. CBC on the bye week. Jackson, Seckman jumped. Lee Summit West after the Titans lost last week. Lafayette got a couple votes this week. So really, when you look at this and you look at how this is all shaken out, it's exactly where I kind of envisioned things a little bit earlier this year. And now it's real interesting, especially the way that the brackets are set up. It's East versus West this year. So now you've got some interesting scenarios. You got a DeSmet team that's a 1 seed. You got CBC that's a 4 seed. You got Jackson that's a 2 seed. Seckman that's a 3 seed. But then you look out on the western part of the state, and it is an absolute free-for-all out there in Class 6. So no complaints where the rankings shook out. I think it's exactly where it should be for the last regular season rankings. And now we won't do another ranking until after the state championships. But it's exactly where I think it should be. And it'll be interesting to see how some of these districts play out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Seckman being at 9 is probably a good spot. Jackson, obviously, we talked about them. They lost their first game of the year, and then they just rolled. They haven't lost anybody in Missouri, so they're going to be a tough out as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And once again, Seckman gets the 1 seed. So now Jackson, if everybody takes care of their business, guess what? Jackson's got to come up to Seckman and play that district final. Now, there's got to be a lot of things that are going to have to happen over the next few weeks for that to come to fruition. But I'm telling you, it's good that you're going to, for that district final, if you're Seckman, you take care of your business. You're not going to have to go down to the pit. They're going to have to come to you.
That's right. We talked about that basically all year, and we talked about Class 5 now. So, Jim, let's get your take on this one.
Yeah, once again, Ritter doing what Ritter does, and that's just get victories. And they got pushed a little bit against the U High, and then they were able to pull away. So Ritter is the odds-on favorite in state in Class 5. Grain Valley is going to be right there. Helias is a really, really good team. Lebanon has been a sneaky good team all year. Rock Summit, once again, I said it all year. Eric Stewart, I think, is one of the Coach of the Year candidates in all classes for what he's done with that program. Webb Republic, terrific years for them. Then you got a St. Dom team, 9-0. We talk about Thomas Pulliam. The catch he made in the latter stages of that game should have been on Sports Center Top 10. It was that good and that impressive to get St. Dom over the hump and get a nice victory. And then Platte County and then MICDS, they slide into the top, they stay at 10. So really not a whole lot of changes. Breaking the tie with Webb City. Somebody decided to give them an extra vote. But this is, once again, it's setting up to be a really, really talented Class 5 draw in districts and to see who's going to make it out to Faroe.
100%. And again, usual suspects. I don't see this being any different unless they're in the same district as the other teams, and that's pretty common. And then we'll go over to Class 4. And we got somebody new into the mix right here at the end, and they're obviously put together a great season. So, Jim, why don't we talk about Class 4?
How about 4 teams in the same district in this Class 4 top 10? It's sick. It is ridiculous. Smithville, Lutheran North, and I said in the Google Doc, I said, okay, we got to have the conversation about moving Lutheran North back into 1. They lost to Maryville, who's number 3 in Class 3. They didn't have their quarterback in Dakari Hollis, but Hollis is healthy. We saw what they've done here over the past, last couple of weeks. They are the only team, in my recollection, that can say that they beat 3 defending state champs. They beat Blair Oaks on the road. They beat Howell on the road. They beat St. Mary's on the road. You've got to look at their resume. And I put Lutheran North back up at 1 on my ballot. And once again, a lot of people on the western side of the state giving Smithville the love. And once again, Smithville is a great team. Coach Aronson has done a terrific job with that program. Hillsboro, they're going to be right in the mix. Kearney, you got them there. Then you got Hannibal, Warrenton, Parkway North, all in the same district. How nutty is that going to be when we get into this whole thing? And then, Pleasant Hill, Nevada, and Grandview. And once again, the 3-6 record for Grandview is because those 6 losses are all forfeit losses. 5 of them, excuse me. They only lost 1 time on the field. 5 games were forfeits because of an eligible player. That's why they're still ranked even with the 3-6 record.
It's still crazy to see a 3-6 team be in the top 10. They must be that good, because I would assume there would be somebody else that might be better with a better record.
If they don't have to take those forfeits, they're 8-1, and they're probably slotted in the 5 slot just ahead of Hannibal. I mean, they are really, really talented.
But you gotta go on the road and play.
Yeah,
those
now you're traveling.
Games.
Yep, yeah. You're traveling now, and you got to prove, okay, you take those forfeits out, you're 8-1. Now you got to prove it on the road in hostile environments.
Well, and that's just what you got to do. I mean, again, you play with the hand that you're dealt. Right?
Exactly.
We talked about that. Well, when we come back, we're going to start previewing those district matchups, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. You're watching On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show. We'll be right back.
Captain of the Pee Wee football team. We may be small, but we are
mighty,
annoying. And you are so tired from playing defense against us that your focus is about to ride the bench. Woo! Go. Thanks, Mom.
Bye.
Come on. And if you have cut rate car insurance, then not even a Hail Mary will save you from paying for this. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. This episode, all of our episodes of On the Move at the Caravan Sports Preview Show are brought to you by Wiley Agencies. You need some insurance? I got a guy. You can call Sean Wiley today. His Festus office, 636-764-6294. His Hillsborough office at 636-333-9903. You can get multiple policies with one agent, one roof, all kinds of things. Give Sean a call today. He will take care of you. Jim, it's that we'd already said it's that time of year. We've got some great district matchups. If the media has their way, they put everybody in a few districts together and said these are the best. We have to go with geography. We've complained about it a little bit on the coaches box, as we mentioned before, but it has been a very hot topic of debate recently about some of these district groupings that Michigan comes out with. But I'll tell you what, it's going to make for some fine football games.
It is, and obviously in the lower classes, there's going to be a boatload of travel. We talked about that one class in district last week on the coaches box, and we get it, we understand, But once again, when you look at, they try to do a geography, and especially in classes 1 and 2, you just don't have a lot of teams in the same area. They're more spread out than what we see in the upper in the higher classes. So
Correct.
yeah, I mean, it was important, like and I'll use Herky for a perfect example. For them, that victory over Crystal put them into a host situation to where now they don't have to travel 2.5 hours south. Now Kenneth's got to travel up here to play them.
It's a little
So
bit of a haul.
it's a little bit of a drive.
No,
But we know, and it's something for us to always talk about. But they try to do the best job that they can, and once again, you got to play with the hand that you're dealt, especially in the lower classifications. That's why you'll see a lot of those games on Saturday instead of Friday. That way, it cuts down on taking the kids out of school for a full day on Friday. You can do a walk through Friday afternoon, load the buses up, go down, or get up first thing Saturday morning, drive down. So that's why I think you're seeing some Saturday games, especially with some of those districts where the travel is just ridiculous.
right, right. Now, the ones we're going to be talking about, travel's not so ridiculous
No.
because they're pretty close. So we'll jump right in. There's my foreshadowing moment for the day. We have the Class 6 District 1 tournament. And Jim, it's going to be a tough one.
It is, in the way, if it shakes out the way it should, we should see Seckman Jackson in the district final at Seckman. Oakville Northwest just played this past week. Oakville got the victory, or they played 2 weeks ago. So Oakville, they get 4 seed over Northwest. Sorry, Seckman's beat them both already. Jackson and Lindbergh, I think, is an intriguing matchup, but I just think Jackson's got a little bit too much horsepower, especially defensively, in order to, for Lindbergh to try and stop them. So, this really should shake out to be Seckman and Jackson. I've been wrong before. I don't think I'm going to be wrong this time around. I think that the district championship in a couple of weeks is going to be played down, in northern Jefferson County, down in Imperial. I think it's going to be a great matchup between two of the top teams in the state all year long.
Yeah, and talk about Oakville and Northwest. I mean, Oakville, Mike Ginge has done a great job there at Oakville.
Yes, he has.
They're a contender. Seckman's just really good. I see them winning against Northwest, but I don't think they're ready yet for beating Seckman. I could be wrong too, and I'm sure that they'll come out there and Mike will do a good job. But I agree. I'm looking at Seckman Jackson. And that's going to be a fun matchup. It really is. And I know Jackson plays well on the road still, so it's still going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough district. And once again, now you come out of this district, you know what you got coming ahead of you, and that's the district of death that we've talked about all year long. So you've got to be battle tested and ready to roll coming out of this thing, and you've got to hope that you're going to get some games to where it's going to get your kids ready to go, especially Seckman, Jackson, and Lindbergh. You got a bye week this week because only 5 in the district, so you can actually heal yourself, go over some stuff, try and get yourselves better before you start diving into scouting reports next week.
Man, and you had to foreshadow it a little bit because we are going to talk about the district of death, and here it is, Class 6 District 2. Man, when you have CBC and Kirkwood as your 4 and 5, that tells you that the district's a little tough.
Slightly tough. And we've talked about this district ever since the districts came out back in late August. Marquette, Lafayette, better record, but week 1, Marquette beat Lafayette. So when you're next to each other, you then go to whoever won the head-to-head, if there was a head-to-head, and Marquette gets the 1 seed and Lafayette gets the 2 seed. And then you look at CBC Kirkwood. My gosh, is that going to be a terrific game Friday night over at CBC? Kirkwood has found their footing a little bit here in the back part of the season. And I think that, JMAC's got them playing at a really good level. CBC coming off of a bye week. We'll see how they come out of just their rigorous schedule of travel this year. And then you got a Howell team, is sitting down there at the 3. And it's just like, and put it this way, it was a razor's edge differential between Howell at the 3 seed and Marquette, because when the numbers came out, Lafayette was 1, Marquette was 2 by 0.005 over Howell.
Wow.
That's how close it was. Because if Howell jumps them, then all of a sudden you've got Lafayette as the 1, Howell moves over to the 2, and Marquette slides down to the 3. I mean, that's how this district didn't get solidified until Saturday afternoon, after they just recrunched every number imaginable to make sure that it was correct, and it ended up being correct. But boy, I tell you what, just an unbelievable district. You got a CBC team that'll host this week, but then they may not host again until, if they can make it out of this district, until the quarterfinal. You got a Howell team, same scenario. You win your home game this week, you may not host again until the quarterfinal. So a lot on the line. This district is loaded. I'm not even going to venture to guess who can win this district, because I think any of the 5 could. Vianney, our good friend Chris Starkey has done a terrific job starting to build that Vianney program back. I think, though, they're still going to be a little overmatched against Howell this week, but then Howell and Lafayette next week. My gosh. CBC Kirkwood against Marquette. We've already seen what Kirkwood did to Marquette. Kirkwood beat Marquette earlier this year. It's going to be a free-for-all to see who can win this thing.
Absolutely. And the graphic is wrong, because Francis Howell should be 3. They should not be 4. We're going to fire that person. They keep messing up on things.
That intern needs to get his stuff correct.
Yeah, they got to go. They can't get this right. They got to go. It's a real simple job. Just do all the graphics for everything. See, simple.
You got one job.
Right. And I agree with you. I don't think you can pick this one. I think you just got to say, well, we're going to see what happens. And, the winner of this district playing the winner of District 1, they could be a little beat up. So even winning this one doesn't mean that you're guaranteed a spot moving on to the Final Four.
Once again, having a bye week this week is key. It really is, because it lets you get a little bit better, get a little healthier, do some self-scouting, figure out some stuff that you need to work on, and then you get into your scouting reports next week. You get out Friday night, you watch whoever you're going to play. In high school, you can film, unlike Michigan's been doing and sending people. I know I shouldn't have gone there. Should not have gone there. But yeah, I mean, that's what these coaches are doing right now. They're just, getting their kids healthy, getting them. They're not hitting. They're just doing some stuff just to keep, condition. Then they'll start worrying about scouting reports next week. If you're Lafayette and Marquette.
Right. And you had to make that Michigan plug.
Ohio I sure did.
Dang it,
Kevin Warder, I still love you, brother.
And then we're going to move on down to Class 5, District 2. And Jim, again, it's not a cakewalk here.
It's not easy. Summit's the one, by far the best team in the district, without any doubt. But you've got a Eureka team sitting there. The number 2, yes, they shuffled their feet in the back part of the season, but they're still a really good ball club. You got Ladue, who has been going back and forth between quarterbacks, and they've finally got a little bit of footing. This is, how about Ladue, Chaminade? Schools are 2 miles away from each other, are going to square up, and I think if Chaminade comes to play, which I know they can, and I know Coach Torrey will have those kids ready to roll, that game is probably the best game. West and Central have played earlier this year, but once again, I just don't see anybody in this district right now knocking off Rockwood Summit. Rockwood Summit with Elisha Stevens, who set, a bunch of career records this year for the program. They got a great quarterback, but their defense has just played lights out. We saw what they did against Marquette earlier this year. We saw what they did against Parkway North in the second half. This Summit team is as good of a team that I've seen come out of Rockwood in many, many years. And they've had some good teams as of late. I think this team is the most well-rounded Rockwood Summit team that Stu has had. So I got to give right now the big edge to Summit. But once again, Eureka, if they figured out some stuff, they're going to be a tough out down in the bottom part of that bracket. That Ladue Chaminade game is a coin flip, because I think Chaminade, coming off of a nice win last week, I think the Chaminade team can kind of be that giant killer, so to say, and sneak a couple victories out.
Yeah, and again, I just don't see anybody beating Summit in this district. I mean, they are playing that good. It starts on the defensive side. They're a very balanced team. They do things on both sides of the ball really, really well. So it's pretty much theirs to lose. The bye week's definitely going to help them too.
Without a doubt. And once again, you got to use the bye as an advantage. Yes, some teams like to play. Some coaches just want to keep rolling, keep them in their normal routine. But you know what? After a long 9-game regular season, it's good to have that bye week just so you can catch your breath a little bit and do some things that you can't normally do during the regular season.
Right.
So once again, it's going to be hard for me to find anybody right now that can beat Summit because they're playing at such a high level.
Yeah, they are. They're a tough out, and they've proven that all year long. Excuse me. And then we move on to our next district that we're going to look at, Class 4 District 3. And on the outside looking in, Jim, it looks like this is just who's going to play Lutheran North.
Yeah, it is. And, once again, no disrespect to the other teams in the district. Lutheran North, I just talked about their resume a little bit ago. They're on a mission. And, I still will say if they have Hollis in the Maryville game, they win that game by 2 touchdowns. Vashon give them some fits on the edges because they've got some great speed, both offensively at the wide receivers in the slot. Their secondary is pretty doggone talented, but once again, this is Lutheran North's district to lose. They have to come in with the mindset that it's 0-0. We got to forget that we beat 3 defending state champs. Put that in the rearview mirror. Look ahead at what you got coming at you. And if they do that, and I know Kyle Wagner will have those kids ready to go. If they do that, they get through this district pretty easily, I believe. Clayton Brentwood, what a great story that is. The co-op put it together early in the summer, and they've been fun to watch. They've gotten some victories. Brentwood has always, had some pretty good teams here as of late, even with only 21, 22 kids. But right now in this day and age, you can't field a team with 20 kids. You have to figure out a way to get numbers. Clayton was in the same boat. And so that co-op being put together, it was really good for both of those 2 school districts and both of those communities. And I think they can make some noise on the bottom part of that bracket. But I'm sorry, nobody beating Lutheran North in that district. They are, once again, we talked about Summit being head and shoulders above. Lutheran North is head and shoulders above everybody there. And honestly, I don't see anybody on this side of the state in the bracket when we get out a district into the quarters. I just don't see anybody beating Lutheran North. I think Lutheran North, they take care of their business. They are going to get out to Columbia for the state championship. And boy, I tell you what, I said this in our group thing, with the state panel. I want to see Lutheran North in Smithville. Now, obviously, you've got some other factors. Yeah, I mean, you've got a Parkway North team that is playing really well. You've got a Warrenton team. I mean, whoever comes out of that district is going to be absolutely battle tested and ready to roll.
Yeah. Hopefully they're not banged up. I think Lutheran North in this district, though, is like Larry Bird in the 3-point contest, looking back, going, "Who's getting second?" They are that good, and there's no disrespect to anybody else. They're just on another level than anybody in that district. There's a lot of good stories, like you said, like the Clayton Brentwood co-op. But again, Lutheran North, they're in that class for a reason because they've won. They get bumped up. They're good. They've proven it. Be 3 state champions this year. And I agree with you that loss to Maryville would not be the case if they were healthy. I look for them in Smithville to be playing at Faroe Field.
Yeah, I want to see that matchup. And I just got the state championships. I'm going to have the Class 4, Class 5, and Class 6 championship. And I want nothing more.
We're not worthy.
I want nothing more than 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, that being, Smithville and Liberty North. I mean, my gosh, is that just going to be a fun game?
It will be, and that's what I think that's what
But
everybody wants
everybody's
to
got to
see.
take care of your business. Let's not put the cart ahead of the. Take care of your business. But
Yes.
I'm telling you right now, that's what the collision course looks like for those two. Smithville going to have a little bit of a tougher road, I think, out on the western part of the state with some of the teams that they're going to have to match up with. But I'm telling you, if everybody plays the way that they should, that's who we should see out in Fro Field.
And our last football district that we're going to talk about before we switch gears on sports is the Class 4 District 4 with our very loaded by rankings district.
Wow.
So Jim, let's hear what you guys in the media were thinking here.
What we were thinking was we are out of our ever-loving minds and even thinking that this district was going to be as loaded as it is. And yeah, I mean, Parkway North comes out of nowhere. And Coach Altenfeld has done a terrific job in bringing this program back.
Yes.
Best record since since when Bob Bunton was the head coach there a few years back. Once again, they had Summit in the first half, and then Summit does what Summit does in the second half. They make adjustments and they come out and they punch in the mouth and they don't let you back up, back into the game. But then you got a whole team. They've quietly put together a really nice season. They're the 2 seed. You've got this Hannibal team that is scary good. And Aeneas Williams is one of the best running backs in the state of Missouri. And this kid can flat out get after it. And then you've got Warrenton, one of the best stories of the year, 9-0. Nobody saw that one coming. And they're the 4 seed in this district. That's the matchup I want to see. Obviously, you got to take care of your business against Lutheran St. Charles. Holt will beat Mexico. Hannibal will beat St. Charles. You should see the top 4 seeds move through. I want to see Parkway North Warrenton. I think this will show us where Warrenton really, really is. A lot of people are saying that they played a weak schedule. It's not that weak when you're playing the GAC and you're playing some of those good teams in the lower side of the GAC. They are 9-0 for a reason. They've got great quarterback play, but I'm telling you, Warrenton hangs their hat defensively, and they may be able to come up with some answers against North in that dual offense that they have. Their quarterback's terrific. Their running back who has stepped in at quarterback, they can wildcat them. They can do some different things. They can get them out onto the slot. That's going to be an incredible matchup. And Holt and Hannibal is going to be a terrific matchup as well. So yeah, this may be, other than Class 6 District 2, this may be the toughest district in the state of Missouri, all classifications, especially when you've got 3 ranked teams and a whole team that was just on the outside looking in, in the same district.
Yeah, it's just pretty wild how it ended up. I mean, with Warrenton being ranked and they're the 4 seed, and especially when you don't have full 8 team districts, that's saying something. So it's going to make for a lot of fun football to watch, but it's also going to be pretty much, hey, you got to prove it. Now there's no cupcake in this district.
Right, exactly. And that's where, we talk about that going to Jefferson County. Obviously, Hillsboro Festus should match up in the district final. I think Hillsboro is going to, they're going to have to run into that Lutheran North, gauntlet at some point. You've got R7 that is going to be matched up with some good, play. You got St. Vincent. And once again, I'll double down and say I'm a believer on St. Vincent. I think St. Vincent can make a pretty doggone deep run. When it comes to it in Crystal, I mean, yeah, that was a loss to, you're playing somebody 2 classes up from you, and you got put into a dogfight against them. But Crystal can make some noise as well. But I'm just telling you, I think, when we look collectively at what we've got this year, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting state playoffs on the football side that we've seen in many years. And don't be surprised if we see somebody sneak out and make it to Furrow Field that we haven't even talked about this year.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because that's the beauty of the state playoffs. I mean, there's no series. You're playing one, and hey, on any given day, somebody can lose and somebody can win. So that's just the way it goes. And speaking of state playoffs, and we haven't done any of this really this year, we are shifting some gears here, and we are going to talk real quick here about volleyball. And I do love watching some really good volleyball games, but we're going to talk about the Class 5 state volleyball tournament. Jim, take it away.
Yeah, this is gonna, and real quick, the softball championships are this weekend. A lot of local flavor. On the softball side, you got Francis Howell making their way down to Springfield. You got Washington, who's looking, to continue their dominance in Class 4. So it'll be a lot of great things coming out of Springfield and Killian Softball Park this week. But volleyball. It's such a fun sport to watch. And, we saw some great district matchups, district championships. Lafayette last night, they're defending Class 5 state champs. They've only lost twice in the year. And they got pushed to a 5-set marathon monster victory last night against a really talented Marquette team. Lafayette, a lot of people are saying it's a team to watch, but you got to look out the western part of the state. Kickapoo has been terrific all year. Lee Summit West is another really good team. You look at the bottom side of that bracket, Howell Central and Howell, two JC rivals. But I'm telling you, Lafayette has been battle tested, played some of the best teams, not only in Missouri, but in Kansas, at some of the tournaments that they've played in. This Lafayette team is ready to go. And Zach Young has done a terrific job with them. It will not surprise me next week seeing Lafayette go back to back. And that'll be a lot of fun to watch, as we get through the quarters this week, and then we head down to the Show Me Center down at Cape Bardo next weekend.
My neck of the woods.
We're heading down there next week.
That's right. Yeah, there we go. Lafayette's pretty good. I mean, I don't want to discount anybody else that's made it, but Lafayette is really good. And I don't know a lot about volleyball, but I know that. And then we go to Class 4, and I watched St. Pius play last night in the district championship against Festus. St. Pius is pretty good, and when you're playing two classes up, I mean, the Class 4, in my opinion, the Class 4 volleyball bracket is pretty tough.
It's loaded, and you've got a St. Michael's team from the Kansas City side that has just been terrific all year. Parkway West got a nice draw in their district, was able to take care of business. I like Pius here. I think Pius wins that game and makes it down to Cape. Then you look at the bottom side, and Incarnate Word, Lutheran St. Charles Incarnate. Shane Weber's done a terrific job with that program. They got a couple middle blockers that are 6'2", that are just impressive. And you got to remember, Incarnate and Pius matched up earlier this year when they were 1-2, respectively, in the early season, in the early Class 4 rankings. And I think a lot of people are thinking that we could get an all St. Louis area championship. And it won't surprise me if I see that. But you've got, if you're Incarnate, you got to get past St. Michael. Platte County year in and year out has some good volleyball. But I'm telling you right now, if the Lancers are going to get it done, this is the year. I really like this team. I think they are balanced. They get great play out of their outside hitters. Defensively, they can dig and set things up as better than anybody in the state in Class 4. So my bet right now is Pius is going to get to that championship game, and then my gosh, if it's them in Incarnate, next Saturday afternoon, here we go. Let's rock and roll. It's going to be a great match.
Well, and you got to think too, St. Michael the Archangel also beat St. Pius in a tournament this year. So you've got two of the teams that did beat St. Pius playing on the same side of the bracket. I mean, I don't want to sound like a homer, but I'm going to tell you right now.
But you are.
Well, I mean, I enjoy watching good volleyball, and I'm a fan of that. And I don't know a lot about the terminology. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, I do know what good volleyball looks like, and they're playing some good volleyball. They have a good balance of experience and youth still. I mean, they, with a couple of sophomores playing big spots. I think this is a team that can definitely get there. They're gonna be tested for sure all the way through. Parkway West is no pushover, and I think they're going to end up playing Jeff City. So if they do win against Parkway West. But I'll tell you, Class 4 is just tough, and I can't say this enough. How much when you're a small private school having to play up, it does make a difference. You look at how Valley Catholics had to deal with it, and some of the other schools, even Lutheran North football. We've talked about that. The championship factor does make it very tough, and if you win, you've earned it. That's for sure.
Without a doubt. And same Michael the Archangel, same way. They
Yeah.
should be a Class 2 team. Incarnate should honestly be a Class 1 team. And that, so yeah, I mean, you're looking at all the big kids on the block here in Class 4 that are playing up at least 2 classes. So that's where it gets interesting. And once again, the level of volleyball is unbelievable. And we're going to see that in the quarters on Saturday. And that's why I love going down to the state volleyball tournament, is watching the high level of volleyball that takes place. And it is just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. And then we'll talk real quick about Class 3. And of course, they have a bigger bracket because they're a larger class. So they have the extra round before you get to the Final Four. Jim, who do you like in this one?
When you look at this, and once again, bigger class, more districts and all that, that Saxony Lutheran Valley Catholic match tomorrow will be huge, because I think that's the bracket. And Mountain Grove is no slouch. Cleaver is no slouch, but that match, I think, is going to tell the tale on who's going to make it on that side to the state championship game. Then you look over on the other side, and you've got some really, really talented teams, but I think that's going to roll through Blair Oaks. And we talk about Blair Oaks on the football side. Well, guess what? Their volleyball is not that bad, folks. And, if they can get through, they will probably match up against Savannah, who's having a terrific year. They've got a test against Odessa. But I'm telling you, I mean, that Saxony Lutheran Valley Catholic matchup is really, really intriguing. Ursuline will beat Ritter. And then you got St. Clair, who's having a terrific year. I mean, this one is a coin flip. But I've seen Saxony, I've seen Valley, I've had a chance to see Ursuline. I know what Blair Oaks is all about, and I know what Savannah is all about. This is a really, really good group of teams that have made it out of districts into the states, into the quarterfinals tomorrow, or I'm sorry, the sectional tomorrow, and then they'll play their quarterfinals coming up.
Yeah, and I gotta say, because I made the mistake. It's not Cleaver, it's Clever. That's the way that the folks down in Clever like it pronounced, just like Advance instead of Advance. But yes. Anyway,
or Nevada instead of Nevada.
Correct. Saxony Valley Catholic is the most intriguing matchup for me in this one. The other one would be the Odessa Savannah matchup, because I've heard a lot of good things about Odessa and what they've been able to do. So again, I think the stronger side of the bracket is, when you're looking at our graphic here, it'd be the one on the left, because I think we got some really strong teams. But I think it's going to be a great Final Four when all the dust settles.
Yeah, without a doubt. And once again, if any of the local teams make it down the Cape, you've got to come down. The atmosphere is terrific. They play the semifinals simultaneously. They've got the 2 courts set up, and it is just so much fun to walk into the arena while the semis are going on, and the crowd's right on top of you, basically. I mean, it's a treat for the girls to be able to play in that type of atmosphere, and that's what makes it fun. And that's why this year is back at Cape. Next year they're going to move out to the new facility out in St. Joe's, which I'm really excited to see. I've heard a lot of great things about it. But once again, it's just, you have the opportunity to compete for a state championship, and in an environment like it is down there. That's why I love working the volleyball tournament for Misha, is because when I walk out there and just, it's loud, it's crazy. Even the championship games, when they move the championship games to 1 court, I mean, it's packed. I mean, the R7 match last year, you couldn't find a seat. I was telling kids to sit down so I could see, so I can call the match. I mean, that's how crazy it was. And, that's just how it is. And it's so much fun to watch the kids compete. So, volleyball is going to be terrific with sectionals quarters this weekend. And then we head down to Cape on Wednesday and start play on Thursday morning in the semifinals.
It's crazy. It's right around the corner, man. I'm a big fan of the Show Me Center. I think it's a great venue. I always like to say this, though. I think the state championship should be centrally located in the state, and we have some centrally located neutral sites that could possibly host that.
Well, well, I know, but the problem with Mizzou is, number one, Mizzou Arena is not set up for volleyball. They don't have, and then over at Hearns, they're only set up for 1 volleyball court.
Correct.
So that's why it makes it tough there. And I know there's a couple other possible facilities, but it's very hard to try and set up a facility for 2 courts. That way you can have your semis going simultaneously. And that's the fun part about it. And that's why I like it so much is you got both those semis. Nobody's getting an advantage, so to say. Those semis are going on simultaneously. And that's what makes it fun, because it makes the atmosphere a lot better. And I get it. And I agree. I wish, most of the state championships now are centrally located. We'll see what happens with football if they decide to move football back to Thanksgiving weekend. But you talk about cross country at Gans Creek, one of the top cross country courses in the Midwest. I think that's terrific. You look at softball down at Killian. Killian Baseball Park is one of the best parks that there is softball wise. And they could do the format the way that they do it with 5 classifications. You've got the 4 outer fields that you can play your semis, and then you move your third place and your championship games onto main field. So, I get it. But once again, you got to look at logistics and facilities in order to do the things that you want to do. And I'll tell you right now, they're in for a long weekend down at softball this weekend, because we know what Mother Nature asks. There's going to be a lot of rain. The third games are probably going to be best, and they're going to hold on for dear life to at least get the semifinal games in, and they've already got the backup plans. There are a couple fields that are turf, the play turf, that they move to if need be. But, once again, and that's the other consideration, especially with a softball and things, you've got to look at field conditions and different things along those lines in order to have those backup plans in place.
And here I go. I make a comment and Jim lectures me. This is pretty par for the course.
Lecturing you. Golly.
You're educating me and
I'm educating the masses, because
there you go.
Fortunately, unfortunately, I've been down to the state. I've been to the only state thing that I haven't been to is cross country. I've actually been to a couple of the golf championships down at Dalhousie. Obviously track I've been to, volleyball I've been to, basketball, football, and all that stuff, baseball. But it's people don't understand what it takes to put in to do all this stuff, the manpower that it takes, the volunteers that it takes to put these types of events on. And, Misha does such a terrific job with it. And people that don't understand that, just ask, because they'll tell you and they'll educate you on it. And that's where I've been very fortunate to be able to work as many of the state championships as I have been able to, and learn why and the hows and all that. That way, if somebody asks me, I can flat out tell them. I don't care. I'll tell them.
Right.
But like soccer, soccer at Soccer Park is just unbelievable. I know I was trying to avoid saying soccer, but I had to mention it.
Figures. Well, on that note, we will finish the show. Again, we are set up for a great weekend of football, great weekend of volleyball, and Lord willing, and the rains hold off, softball. So. Yes. And all the other fall sports that are going on as well. So get out there, support the kids. It's that time of year. And next week, basketball practice starts.
Here we go,
baby. Here we go. So for Jim, for myself, appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show. We will be back next week. We will see you guys all then. Have a great one. This episode of On the Move with the Caravan is brought to you by Off the Rails Media. Life's more fun when you're off the rails.
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.